Hey Wolverines, I'm Alfredo Diaz.
And I'm Adrian Fraga. Let's get right into this week's episode of Waiver Wire.
And this week's special guest host is Marco Arzoza. Marco, how are you doing today?
Super excited to be on this edition of Waiver Wire.
Yeah, and we're happy to have you. 1 week into the NFL season, we finally, got the taste for football we were so desperately begging for. Yeah. And what did you guys think of the first week?
Now, there was definitely a lot of ups and downs to this week. A lot of guys had booms. A lot of guys didn't do as well. Honestly, week one, you shouldn't make any drastic changes to your lineups.
Yeah, I feel like it's really important you can't overreact to what happened week one. Some people, Gronk dropped 29 points, but is he going to be a viable starting option like for a tight end for the rest of the year? We don't know that. Is Amari Cooper going to drop 30 a game? No, but he's going to be very solid, and I think week one helped us image it,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, week one overreactions are almost a part of football season. Every single year we get them, and every single year the claims are kind of dismissed. By week 4 or 5, we figure out, we find a little bit of sturdier footing to stand on. But let's get right into this episode with our top 10 quarterbacks for the week. The list is headlined by Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in football, and I don't think we need to say more there.
I totally agree with that statement.
Yeah, he played what should be a very much so improved Browns defense, and he managed to find Tyreek Hill and find Travis Kelce when he needed to.
The one I love on this list definitely is Lamar Jackson. Playing against the Chiefs, it's obviously going to be a shootout as it was last year. It's definitely going to end up around 35, 38, around there. And I think Lamar Jackson will put up great numbers.
I mean, yeah, it's fair to say. He gets the run game going, and he also gets the passing game going. So I really like Dak. Now, Dak was a big question mark for me going into the season. Was that hip injury, or the ankle injury, was it going to linger? That now there was reports that he was dealing with a shoulder injury during camp. But I think when he came in and played that Bucs defense, and he played them very good, I think Dak is now very good going into the season.
Yeah, and speaking of the Cowboys, let's talk about the Cowboys defense that Justin Herbert gets to face this week, and I think that he's going to blow up, and he has the potential to be QB1 because those Cowboys DBs, did not get better from last year, and they were historically bad last season. So I think that there's a bunch of options on this QB list for you to start. We love Tom Brady again this week, and Russell Wilson against a Titans defense that surrendered a amazing performance to Kyler Murray.
I just want to say I think everyone should stick with Aaron Rodgers. I think it was just a rough week for the Packers in general, Packers offense in general. So I think you should stick with Aaron Rodgers. Again, I want to say week one, don't make any drastic decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about rough weeks for quarterbacks, Josh Allen too. Now, he's playing a tough defense week 2 as well, but you kind of have to figure that his mistakes were based off of the pressure that was forced on him and the fact that his O-line did him no favors. So
he got a lot of pressure off the edge that game.
Yeah, they did.
Definitely.
And yeah, let's look at our top 10 running backs for the week. Christian McCaffrey is going to be the constant on this list. He might be number 1 the entire year, and rightfully so. Right?
I want to talk about Nick Chubb. I think he's a great play this week as he faces the poor Texans defense.
Yeah, not even the fact that the defense is poor, but also game script is going to be working in his favor when the Browns should have a decent lead even by halftime and really turn to the ground game to turn the game out.
Yeah, and Austin Eckler, one of the players we love this year. Austin Eckler plays a very, very subpar Dallas defense, as we mentioned many times, and I expect very big things from him coming into this week. He can come in and be an RB5 this week.
I actually want to go all the way down to number 10, Najee Harris. Even though he didn't put up solid numbers last week, I think for week 2, he's a great play. The Steelers obviously like him. He was in the majority of the Steelers snaps for offense.
He played 100% of the Steelers snaps, and he was the only person the only running back to be registered with a carry. Playing at home against a Las Vegas team that we saw last night could be good, but their defense didn't look like anything special. The Ravens were able to get the running game going on them, and also I think that the Steelers O-line is very young and inexperienced, and I think as we get down the season, they could be, a much better O-line than we saw against the Bills.
Yeah, and I also expect Najee Harris to get more targets and receptions because he didn't really get a lot Sunday. So he should, over time, get more and more experience with that offense and really, mature out of it.
Yeah, and I think he had 3 targets on Sunday's game against the Bills, and 2 of them went off of his hands on slight overthrows by Big Ben. And I think that, their chemistry is only going to get better, and I think that it's going to turn into Najee Harris being a legit RB1 in fantasy.
And talking about receiving yards, I think we should get straight into the top 10 receivers.
Yeah, our top 10 receivers for the week, again, number 1 and 2 are Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had an amazing game against the Browns, and I expect him to continue to, set the pace in yards and touchdowns for the league.
Absolutely. DeAndre Hopkins, so you want to talk big games. Oh my, DeAndre Hopkins. He dropped 2 touchdowns and over 100 receiving yards against a poor Titans defense. This week, the Cardinals play a Vikings secondary that also isn't very good. So DeAndre Hopkins is going to be very good this week again.
What I want to talk about is I personally would have put Stephon Diggs at 4. I think DK Metcalf, with Tyler Lockett being on the same team, he definitely shares a lot of the targets with him. So I feel like Stephon Diggs is definitely more of a play than DK Metcalf is.
Well, the problem with Stephon Diggs is he's going to, be shadowed by Xavier Howard this week against the Dolphins. And DK Metcalf gets that tight end secondary that DeAndre Hopkins just basically, ran rampant through. So I think that DK is a top 5 play this week, no matter which way you put it. And Keenan Allen, again, we keep slamming the Cowboys defense, and it doesn't mean, anything personal against Gabe, but we do think that Keenan Allen can tear them up this week and finish as a top 5 receiver as well.
And let's look at the big question mark. Is number 10 Amari Cooper going to have a game like that again this season? What do you guys think?
Well, I think he's always been a boomer bust guy. I think definitely could have a game like that, but don't be surprised if he drops a 0.0 one week.
Oh,
That's hefty.
I mean, he does share the targets with CeeDee Lamb, so you never know.
Not only that, Michael Gallup's currently sidelined due to an injury, but he's still got Blake Jarwin, Ezekiel Elliott out of the backfield,
Cedric
Tony
Wilson.
Pollard, who they're using more out of the backfield. And that's going to hurt Amari Cooper. He's not going to be able to drop that many points a week.
A lot of mouths to feed on that offense. But talking about our tight ends, let's go into our top 10 tight ends for the week. And again, another list that number 1 might be constant throughout the entire season. Travis Kelce is such a force on the football field with his route running and his football IQ. I mean, we can expect him to pace the league in catches, yards, and touchdowns for tight ends.
Yeah, and Darren Waller, oh my, what a game he had. Darren Waller had 19 targets against a very good Ravens defense. And this week, the Raiders play Pittsburgh. Tough matchup, but I expect Darren Waller to keep doing what he does best, and that's being a matchup nightmare.
Now, growing up as a Gator fan, I really want to talk good about Kyle Pitts. But at number 7, I think we could even bump up Rob Gronkowski over there after the game that he just had.
Well, yeah, the only problem with Gronk is that we hadn't seen him get that many targets in a game since his New England days. So
I personally think that he's gonna get those looks every game from now on.
I think it's a big question mark. There's a lot of mouths to feed on that offense. That receiving room is especially stacked.
Yeah, Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown did surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, and I also think that Gronk doesn't get to play the Dallas defense every week because let's just mention them with every single graphic. And listen, I think that he's gonna be great inside the red zone. Don't get me wrong, but Mike Evans is the one that was the odd man out last game. I think very easily it could be Gronk this week, or even further 2 of the guys.
And not only that, Gronk had 90 receiving yards. He's not gonna get that every week, and that's a given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then just finishing it off, your boy T.J. Hawkinson had an amazing game against a tough matchup, and you were telling me how you thought he should be higher. And
I love T.J. Hawkinson this year.
Beast.
I've been mentioning how there's not really a lot of receivers on that offense. Best receiver on that offense currently is Tyrell Williams. So compared to the Buccaneers that have a lot of mouths to feed, the Lions have nothing to feed. So T.J. Hawkinson is going to keep being a red zone threat. He's going to keep being a receiving threat, and I expect a lot of targets and receptions from him per week.
Yeah, the Lions receiving core might actually go hungry this year because they might not be eating too much.
Especially with Jared Goff at quarterback.
Yeah, Jared Goff actually had a very solid
quiet game, I'd say.
Very solidly, good game and a lot of garbage time yards and touchdowns. Marco, this week, who do you really love to start above, where they're being ranked by a bunch of different fantasy sources?
Well, my start of the week is definitely Damian Harris out of the New England Patriots, facing a pretty poor Jets defense, and he even against the Dolphins, he dropped solid points without even scoring a touchdown. He ran for over
100 yards.
Over 100 yards, and with no touchdowns, got 13 points. I think it's a really good play this year.
Damian Harris did surprise me. As a Dolphins fan watching that, and it worried me too. Now the Dolphins don't have the best run defense, but I'm not going to say the Jets have a better run defense because they don't. So Damian Harris will be very good this week.
And I can understand how some people may be hesitant on him because he has James White too. But I think he definitely got the majority of the looks, so I don't think James White would be interfering with Damian Harris's production.
Yeah, and I think they each have their own roles cut out for them. I'd be actually more scared of Ramondre Stevenson taking away carries from him. But then again, rookie quarterback, I think Bill Belichick's going to want to lean hard on the run game and really allow Mac Jones, his time to flourish and be able to use that play action that the New England Patriots
that rookie year, they're going to
so
guide
well.
Mac Jones with that run game. I think it's really going to help him out his rookie campaign.
Yeah.
Now, my start of the week is actually someone that I thought was quite a sleeper. Brandon Cooks out of the Texans. Oh my, 7 targets, 5 catches, over 130 yards, equaling to about 18.2 fantasy points. Now, this week, the Texans play the Browns secondary. They let Tyreek Hill drop over 35 points.
With 197 yards receiving, may I add.
Yeah, and obviously Brandon Cooks is no Tyreek Hill, but Brandon Cooks is the best receiver on the Texans by a long shot. That roster is very empty. They definitely need receiving help. If Tyrod Taylor continues to play even a fraction of how he played Sunday, Brandon Cooks is going to be very viable this weekend.
You know what? I couldn't agree more with that take. I think that's an excellent standpoint, and I think many people should look at Brandon Cooks as a starter.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Cooks has been so consistent in the NFL for so long, having 1,000-yard seasons back to back to back to back, and it gets to a point where when is he no longer going to be a sleeper? Because it almost feels like he has been his whole career. And speaking of guys who I personally think have been sleepers their entire careers, let's talk about my start of the week, Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett has been playing second fiddle to DK Metcalf, but I think he might be the best wide receiver on that team once you factor in the fact that he has been so good for so long in the slot. And in last game, he had over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I think as long as they let Russ cook, Tyler Lockett's going to be balling.
I want to back you up just right there. You think Tyler Lockett is better than DK Metcalf?
Well, I said that maybe Tyler Lockett could be better than DK Metcalf.
I think Tyler Lockett's production may prove more than DK Metcalf, but DK Metcalf is substantially better than Tyler Lockett.
See,
well,
I think it all comes to opinion because they're completely two different archetypes of receivers. You have one who's an absolute burner, deep threat in Tyler Lockett, and the other you have a physical matchup nightmare in DK Metcalf.
Well, I think at the end of the day, DK Metcalf might be more talented, but fantasy scores don't care about your talent. They care about your production on the field. And Tyler Lockett matches DK Metcalf each year he's been in the NFL. And I think that this week against that tight end secondary that, again, just gave up a huge game to not only DeAndre Hopkins, but also to Christian Kirk, which is important to add for both wide receivers. I think that Tyler Lockett could really go off for, a couple touchdowns and 100 yards receiving.
Absolutely. Definitely has huge potential to this week.
And Marco, hitting the waiver wires, who do you like to pick up this week, to try to gain an edge on competition?
This is definitely, after this week's performance, I think Bryan Edwards is a surefire pickup. Coming out of the Las Vegas Raiders, the experts were saying he had a strong camp. Some even said that he looks like the next Terrell Owens. I know you might hesitate to put him in your starting roster. In your starting roster this week, but definitely later on for depth, you need to pick up Bryan Edwards.
I mean, I think it's fair to say Bryan Edwards had a huge play last night that eventually led to the Raiders going to the win. And so Bryan Edwards could be very big this week.
Yeah, and I mean, comparing to Terrell Owens is a tall task for anyone to fill, but I think that Bryan Edwards is a great.
I'm just quoting the
I think it's a
experts here.
Great depth pickup. And later in the season can eventually blossom into fruition.
Yeah.
But
so
Frago, who do you like this week to pick off the waiver wire?
As everyone knows, I am a Dolphins fan, so this one does hurt me. But my waiver wire pickup of the week is Nelson Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar had 7 targets and 5 catches against a very good Dolphins secondary. And he's currently only rostered in 29% of leagues. Now, if you need a last-second starter, Nelson Aguilar is going to be very good because the Patriots play the Jets this week. And the Jets' defense is very, very, very bad. So I think Nelson Aguilar could be a very good depth pickup, if not a last-second starter.
I could agree with that because any receiver who plays the Jets is a must start. You have to start every receiver that plays the Jets.
Well, yeah, and I think that, again, Nelson Aguilar could be the, Mac Jones' favorite target in that offense, and bonding with the rookie quarterback is crucial. If he thinks that Nelson Aguilar can be a safety blanket, then he's going to be able to, produce for the rest of the season.
Kind of like Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen last year.
Yes, Keenan Allen was a little bit more accomplished at the time, but yes, a little bit like how he was able to latch onto him. And my pickup of the week is actually Elijah Mitchell. Now, the 49ers backfield is not notorious for being reliable, to say the least. It's very much of a hot hand backfield. That's why I'm saying you should pick up Elijah Mitchell and stash him on your bench for 1 week, kind of to see how the carries get distributed in wake of Raheem Mostert's injury, which was terrible to see because I think he's so talented. Elijah Mitchell ran for 100 yards and a touchdown in a game that saw the game script in his favor. And I think that he could have the edge on the other 49ers running backs, and that backfield is so valuable in fantasy if you can figure out, what running backs are going to be used when.
No, yeah, for sure. I'm always a big fan of picking up guys who could be just on your bench and be, if someone gets injured, definitely a good insurance option.
Well, I think that he could be solid immediately, and that's why I would call him a desperate start if you needed a running back really badly.
Or even a fringe flex.
You could. But Fredo is basically saying that, like, the safest thing to do, since we don't really know the situation in that backfield, we don't know what's up with Trey Sermon. He was a healthy scratch. Is he playing this week? What's up with him? We don't know what's going on there. So basically, it's the safe thing to do is keep it on your bench, see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'd say you should start him at running back if your running backs are, like, randomly saying, like, Javonte Williams and
Ronald Jones.
Then you could probably start him at running back. But Marco, who this week are you sitting across all of your leagues because you really do not like his matchup or the way he was used week 1?
All right, this may be a heat up, but I'm benching Saquon Barkley in all of my leagues. I have him. I actually drafted him in two of my leagues, and after last week's performance, we really don't know much about him, and he's also facing a strong Washington front seven with, of course, Chase Young.
Against a very bad offensive line. I can definitely see where you're coming from. People slammed on me last week for my bench Ezekiel Elliott take, which I ended up actually being right. So maybe you
heard it here first. Saquon's getting under 7 points again.
Under 7 points. That's a bold take for someone who's so talented, but you might not be wrong, right, at the end of the day.
You want to talk about under 7 points. My bench of the week is actually Mike Evans, big name wide receiver, but what option is he on that offense? A lot of mouths to feed on that offense. And not only that, he only got 6 targets and only racked in 3 catches, and against a very bad Cowboy secondary. We talked about how bad that Cowboy secondary is, and Mike Evans only put up 5.4 points.
And Mike Evans has always been a hit or miss.
No, absolutely. He's so touchdown dependent and big play dependent, and it's not a guarantee every week.
Of course.
Yeah, and this is going to be a little bit difficult for me to convey, but I think my bench of the week is actually every single player on the New York Giants. I think that offense should be completely thrown out in terms of fantasy relevance until they showed us that they're able to lean on Saquon and really use him, because I think a little bit of the issues with him is that they're scared because he just recently tore his ACL, and him coming back, and I think that the entire Giants offense, whether it be Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram.
As of right now, it's a mess.
Sterling Shepard should be the furthest away from your starting lineup.
Well, he did just have 25 points, but
furthest away.
I don't trust any of those Giants receivers, and honestly, I don't trust Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones
Sterling
proven,
Shepard is
exactly.
He's way more hit or miss than Mike Evans is, for sure. And even his best game will get you 25 points.
Well,
25 is pretty solid.
Is pretty solid for the best game.
Obviously, but best game, Mike Evans' best game put up 30. And
fair. But, yeah, that Giants offense is a huge question mark with Daniel Jones at the helm. That offensive line is very bad. What's the deal with Saquon? Is he fully healthy? Is he going to continue to play? Is he ever going to go back to that performance he had his rookie in 2019 year?
Yeah, and I mean, I think we have a lot to look forward to for week 2. And starting with Thursday Night Football, we have Giants, we have Redskins, and I think that it's going to be a good week of football. So, well, thank you guys for joining us, and we hope to see you next week on the Waiver Wire.